Welcome back to the Right Side of Grace. I'm Rick.
I'm Charlie.
And Addie is not with us. She's at the beach this week. So you're the fill-in.
Upgrade.
Guest appearance. I don't know if it's an upgrade. It's
Exactly.
I'll let you and Addie work that out later. So we are here today with charlieblazi. Charlie is my oldest son. And he's been like clamoring to be on the podcast and petitioning, sent applications, sent like a resume. And
I mean, if you hear noises in the background of people walking in, it's typically Charlie.
Typically Charlie covering it. All we need. So anyway, so let's do this. Let's reflect last week, and then we'll get into we'll meet Charlie this week. We'll kind of get an idea of who Charlie is. So last week we talked about Survivor. We always talk about Survivor. So we had a good conversation about Survivor. We talked a lot about Survivor last week.
Like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah. It was significant. But there was a lot to talk about. And then Addie hadn't watched. So she'll probably have to watch 2 episodes before she gets back. But Kyle played a pretty good game last week.
He did.
He kind of figured some stuff out and put Joe in a tight spot. And then I thought Joe was going to figure it out, but Joe did not figure it out. He flipped on Shaheen. Shaheen was shocked.
Yeah.
He was completely shocked about the whole situation. So, have you seen this?
Yeah, they pretty much lied to him, right?
Well, I mean, he backstabbed him.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think Joe's mistake was just not straight up asking Shaheen. Like, he should have given Shaheen a chance.
He went completely around the question and never just full on.
Yeah.
Because he just looked at him and Shaheen was like, I feel like Joe wants to ask me something and he never asked me.
Yeah. And I think Shaheen's like, just tell me what's the deal?
He's like, no, I'm good. I'm good.
He never, then he started making fun of Joe.
Yeah.
Walking around. I thought that was funny. But, Joe got fooled by Camilla and, is it Camilla?
I don't know.
Anyway, close enough. Camilla and Kyle. Mm-hmm. And they did a great job of convincing Joe. If Joe just straight up asked Shaheen, it was all over. And so they risked everything for that. So that was a good move. It was a good move. Mm-hmm. She didn't play her safety without power, so that's gone. But I think she still can play the idol up into 4, right?
You're asking the wrong person.
Anyway, I think she can still play the idol. Eva, we're talking about, can still play the idol. So we'll see how that goes. Yeah. Then, I know why Joe didn't ask Shaheen straight up. Because they convinced Joe he had an idol.
Mm-hmm.
And so he couldn't ask him. Kyle pinned him. So if he asked Shaheen, then Shaheen would just play his idol and it would mess everything up. So then it'd be a mess. So he couldn't come right out and ask him. So that was masterful by Kyle. Anyway, talked a lot about that. Then we talked about relationships. Talked about lost, saved relationships, that kind of thing. If you're Christian or non-Christian, can you have a relationship with each other? We talked about it. We said you can have friendships with people that aren't Christians, and we talked about how the culture of your the friendships you have, you can bring somebody into that. And if you develop a culture, Addie talked about Deuteronomy. She talked about the whole book. I talked about Deuteronomy 6. But building a culture, that is, you walk by in every part of your life is Christian. So we talked a lot about that. It's good. And then we talked about how you can't have a relationship in a dating setting with a non-believer. That's just unthinkable. Yeah. So I have some opinions on that. So go back and watch it. If you
I would agree.
Charlie, have you ever listened to an episode?
But here and there, I've never actually listened to an episode,
from beginning to end.
all the way. I know that's terrible for me to say. Yeah,
Especially since
I'm on the
Yes.
podcast. But maybe this will be the first one I listen to. In person and a recap.
So anyway, let's learn a little bit about you. Let's
Okay.
tell the audience that you're not part of.
Yep.
Who who you are, maybe a little bit about your faith, kind of like a little hot seat kind of thing.
Yeah, just kind of like, just testimony a little bit.
Yeah, just tell us about how you grew up. Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, we grew up in a town, pretty much more than I can remember. We grew up in a town called Whitesburg, Georgia. Most of my life.
Now, Charlie didn't say Whitesburg, Georgia. He said Whitesburg. When we were growing up, he said Whitesburg. I'm from Whitesburg.
Yep. I mean, that's how pretty much everybody pronounced it because they didn't have
228 Jones Mill Road.
didn't have teeth.
Don't be. I'm gonna bleep that out.
You can't do that.
The address that you grew up at.
Oh yeah, yes.
Oh yeah. Probably should bleep that out. I don't know the family that lives there now. But anyway, we grew up there. And it was what?
I was saying the 12 people that watch this know the address.
Yeah, they all know. So, but it was really great. Grew up in Georgia until I was about 16. But most of my life, how I grew up, I was born and raised in the church. From being in ministry, just always. We went to a small church called Praise Mill Baptist Church. You had 200 people on Sunday mornings, if that.
Well, when you were younger, we
Had
were
more.
Yeah, we had
Yeah.
4 or 5 living. And a couple things happened, and we kind of shrank a little bit.
Shrank a little bit, yeah.
By the time we left, it was like 250.
Yeah. So, and it was a great church. I mean, I loved my time there, and it really taught me a lot about serving and how important the church is. But we had that. You remember when we did a family fun day?
Oh yeah, this is his favorite thing to talk about.
We had a family fun day. It was like July 4th week or something like that, and we had old school field day games.
Yeah, what we decided to do was we were going to have a meal on site, July 4th kind of deal. The Sunday of July 4th. So
It wasn't a meal. It was a chili cooking contest.
not the chili. That's a long time ago.
I think we did the chili.
No, we had barbecue.
Come on, I'm sorry.
We didn't do chili in July.
I just remember a lot of good things.
Yeah, we had the chili in the October. We had the kind of chili cook-off in October. But we did barbecue and watermelon, that kind of thing. And so we said, let's just have some old school field day games. And that's what
Yeah,
he remembers.
it was a lot of fun.
We had tell them the games.
I mean, we had bear crawl. Well, it wasn't a bear crawl. It was a crab walk. And I was traumatized from football. But it was crab walk. We had, balloon toss, egg toss, 50-yard dash, 3-legged race, water relays, all these great games. I've always wanted to do it at Hickory Grove. I'm still determined. I'm going to do it.
You got to put in your Sunday school class.
Yeah.
Or community group, sorry.
May just have to, not have Patrick Clint. Just do it. He won't care. No, he probably do it. I'll probably be on the team. But the reason I was bringing that up is because one of our names is the 1 year, we always partnered with another family, but we were called church rats or something like that. We were always at the church, and that's pretty much how I grew up. And
I'm sure I have a picture of the shirt.
yeah. But we were just always there, and remember a lot of things. I was always following him around somewhere. He was taking me somewhere doing something, whether it was at a high school football game or whatever it was. But, we had a good time. I had a good childhood. Pretty solid. Can't complain about it.
Yeah. So spending all that time at church, I mean, did you go to church at all?
Not really.
Did you have a relationship with the Lord?
No. Yeah, I'm just kidding. No, I think at first, I obviously always being around, and I never really clicked in my head it was hey, this is my faith, this is my belief. It was always I'm Dad's pastor at Praise Mill Baptist Church, the mega church of Ducksville, Georgia. And I just thought everybody just knew, everybody knew my dad. We just could go into Walmart and 14 people would come up to him and be like, "Hey Rick, pray for me." And so, oh, I'm good. I'm going to heaven. I'm good. And but I think it was actually fun. It's full circle moment. It's actually kind of cool when you think about it. Look back. But when I was about, what year was that when we went to camp that 1 year?
You were 10.
So
2011?
Yeah, so 2011, I would always go to church camp with them, because he was the youth pastor. So I'd always go to church camp. Got to go when I was young, before I was in youth. And so we went to Camp Bob Cooper.
Wow.
Yep. That was actually
our first year. We went 2 years, and that was our first year.
That was our first year in jail. Gerald Holloway was there. This was in Somerville, South Carolina. Somerton. I don't even know where it was, but it's somewhere down there. Armpit, South Carolina.
Lake Maria.
Marion.
Man, we are terrible at names right now. But anyway, and it was, I don't even remember the message, honestly. And I don't remember exactly what was said, but I just remember, that night, it was I don't even remember the pastor's name.
Alex McFarland. Did the apologetics for us.
Mm-hmm.
So he did the morning sessions and we preached at night.
Yeah. I think it was one of the evening sermons though, that
Could have been Jared.
yeah, it was somebody, I don't know. But it was one of those sermons, and I just remember being overwhelmed and impacted of like, man, I'm just a terrible, awful sinner. And like, I don't know what I need, but I need Christ, because I can't do this on my own, and I just remember feeling that brokenness and then being like, this is not, my dad can't save me, his faith can't save me. It has to be mine. I have to put my trust in that. And then from there, like that's, really, started growing in that. And I think when I turned 16, it was my sophomore year. I was always pretty steady, and I loved the Lord. And, but I got really like super serious when I was 16 because we moved to Charlotte. That was one of the hardest things I ever went through in my entire life, because I left everything I knew for so long. And, when we moved here, that was like one of the most like, all right, I don't know why, but I have to just trust the Lord and, give my life to him. And, he's put me here for a reason. It's time to impact, people for him. And that's what I did. And here I am. So yeah, it's kind of a little bit of just a brief, like I could go on for hours, but that's kind of a brief story. Yeah.
Well, you went back to Bob Cooper.
And and then we came here and then we'd go to Bob Cooper. And I was like, this is crazy. But so
We
with
prefer,
Gerald was there.
Yeah.
we prefer Panama City over Bob Cooper.
Yeah. Bob Cooper is not it.
See, in my opinion, I love Camp Bob.
Yeah.
I love it because
There is a group of people. Either you love Bob Cooper or you kind of hated Bob Cooper. But there is a middle ground, I think, because I loved all the things you could do at Bob Cooper.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the kind of, like you could turn the lights on. They let you play late night. We played.
You could do whatever you wanted there.
I mean, we
Sure
played
something's-
Ultimate Frisbee at like 2 a.m. with the football lights on. Like it was crazy.
yeah, like it was the only day, only camp I ever remember. Like where one day you went skeet shooting, cried and got shot by a paintball gun. Jumped off the blob and then played Ultimate Frisbee at 4 a.m. And like,
And jet skiing.
Mhm.
And then, the boat broke down in the middle of the, river.
Oh, that's right. I rented a boat. Boat broke down. So then I went to the place, got a jet ski. And that's what we pulled in over too, which is actually better.
Yeah. Oh, so much better.
Which is what Hickory Grove did. So they had
I think they had like tons of
We had the jet skis. We had
You
just
also
a
met the
pontoon
Dow.
boat. We had ski boats. We had the hookups.
for sure.
Yep.
All right. So since you got here, 16, like what is, you said it was kind of hard moving here. What's kind of one of the big memories that kind of, or maybe some impactful moment when you got here that kind of made you settle in to Harrisburg and to Hickory Grove? Because you came in, you were a sophomore, like almost at the end of the first semester, because you came right after football season was over from Georgia.
Yeah. Yeah. So I left and like, I was the last one to move here. Like I was like definitely the most like, I'm not doing it. And then I was like, wait, how am I going to pay for my everything? And so I was like, all right.
Haynes said, we'll adopt him. We'll take him. We'll let him finish his football career here.
Yeah.
Coach Combs was like, we'll take care of him.
Yeah. I had people, offering places for me to live, and I considered it a lot, but
It's never going to happen.
it was never going to happen. My mom would stab me, honestly.
Don't say that.
So
Can you cut that out? I'm just
let's be careful.
Yeah.
You're hyperbolic speaking.
Yeah, it's not literal. It's not literal. But anyway, what was the question? Memory?
Yeah, just how you can transition here. Like what was like something that clicked, or just a memory that you have that kind of made you like settle in. This is my home now.
Yeah, and like I just remember, when I moved here, and I think it was like the first couple Sundays, I was just like, I remember walking into the loft, and there's all these kids, and I was just like, I don't know, I have no clue who anybody is, and then, but I'm the kind of guy that's like, I hate not talking to people and get awkward. So I'm just like, I'm just going to go talk to everybody and find one person that likes me, or at least talk to me. And so that's what I did. And then I remember like little, just like, it was just like slowly like little moments where I found really, really good friends. Like I found, it's actually pretty funny. Like Luke Hester. I remember one of my favorite memories because we moved here in November. And then when I first moved here, this was December. We went to a Christmas Eve, Panther Stadium, like Panthers NFL was my first NFL game ever. Went to a Panther game. I went with Luke Hester and Caleb Edwards and Stan Hester. And it was the greatest time ever. And we got Jersey Mike's and ate in the parking lot before the game tailgate. It was great. But just like little moments like that. And then I got to meet, I started getting friends with Jonathan Gauch, just guys like that. And just, I was like, man, the Lord, I can see the potential, I can see the like, oh, there's really good people here. And then I, really what kind of like sealed the deal was like high school. Cause I was like, I didn't go to Hickory Grove. I went to Hickory Ridge, which is completely different from church and high school, which is always how my life was. Like I had church friends and I had high school friends, or school friends, you'd say. But then I had two really, really good buddies that just like were my best friends, like Joe Tudors and Brewer Dixon, and just poured into me and, kind of just like, come on, and that was kind of, because football has a funny thing of doing that, where you just like, you kind of like a bros in like 5 minutes, you get somebody one point.
Something special about locker room.
Yeah. Like it's just, it's really cool. And I think the locker room is, honestly a kind of an advantage. Like being like, whether you like me or not, you got to feel it.
Yeah. Right. Well, it also, your first impressions don't stop the friendship, because like you have to be around each other so much that, the first impression may have been bad, but eventually, that friendship can develop and around. There was other guys at that school.
Oh yeah. There was a ton of it. Like that was just, two names I didn't name.
I thought like Nick Campbell, you were fishing together. Like he kind of just adopted you as his brother and he took you fishing everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. So me and Nick would go fish everywhere. And I don't know. I just had Lord, like my whole life, he's always had, good people that he's put in my life. Like even when I was in Georgia, like I, transitioned from school there. Like I went from, Central, I remember like this was the worst moment of my football career. Like I played middle school in Central and I hated, like I was ready to quit football. Like I just hated it. It's terrible. And I didn't want to go to that high school. And
so let's pause.
Oh yeah. I get off.
Well, no. Let's explain that. So Charlie was, we homeschooled Charlie in middle school. So he went to homeschool there now. Went public school, Whitesburg Elementary, from the time he could, be in school, pre-K, whatever it was, all the way to 5th grade. And then the 6th and 7th grade, we pulled him out and we homeschooled him through like the virtual academy. Jeannie did homeschool. And then he would spend like one day a week with me to go to the church and 3 days. He would spend some time with me. We'd hang out and I would take him to church. I'd take him on like visits to the hospital. We did stuff with the rec ministry. If I needed to do something with rec ministry, all right, Charlie, you're going with me today.
Paint the fields.
He learned algebra and geometry all at one time. All painting fields. So
yeah,
he did that. And then so 8th grade we put him back in the school system because I didn't want him to go to high school and like not have had any friends. Mm-hmm. Well, our district was for Central, and that's in Carrollton. All of our life was in at Alexander High School in Douglasville. So he was a ball boy for Alexander High School. The coaches loved him. He, made these great relationships and all that kind of stuff. So I knew this was coming and I got to get him to Alexander. So I became the bus driver for Douglas County school system. So I could take him to school in Alexander or in Douglas County. Well, for some reason, I had done this for a year in preparation, but for some reason, something went wrong with that right there at that end of that summer, at the beginning of his freshman year.
Yeah.
And so they were forcing him, you can't come to Alexander, you got to go to Central in Carrollton. And so and then the Central Cabarrus, or not Central Cabarrus, sorry, Central of Carrollton Middle School, there were some good coaches there. There were some really good dudes there. But the football coach, the main guy, he knew Charlie wasn't planning on going to Central, so he didn't really invest in Charlie at all. He didn't let Charlie play hardly at all. Like, you got to play some mop-up duty at the very end of these games. I would go to every game it was like Wednesday at 4:00. I'd go to the games. They wouldn't play. They put him in at the end. Now, his position coach loved Charlie, tried to get him in every chance he got. And, a couple of the other position coaches loved him.
And I played basketball.
Yeah. But the
eighth grade.
Fountain was your position coach and fullback because you played some fullback.
No, that was Coach Reynolds.
Oh, I thought. Okay.
Fountain was here.
No, his son, though. Coach Fountain's son. Coach, your son. You don't know. But anyway, there was a couple coaches.
So many times we've been there.
There's many. So the whole deal was they didn't play him because they didn't want to invest in him because they knew he wasn't going to their school, which was a mistake. I mean, I thought I actually asked the coach, say, look, he wants to play, but he needs to have a real chance. Because I know how the game gets played sometimes. Because he just wants a chance. But I never said a word to the coach, not one time. I never in his career went to a coach and said, you need to play my son, ever, ever. That's his job. That's his, why are you laughing? No, I'm just saying. I just think it's funny. So, anyway, so we get to, it happens at college, that high school moment. And he's like, we show up for Alexander and they're like, man, something's going on. We'll get it figured out, but he can't be here. So I had to go to Central. And you went how many practices? Just one or two?
So this is what I was saying. Like, this is the lowest point in my career. Like, I had an okay, like, I still loved football. I had an okay eighth grade year. Didn't play much. But then, everybody knew I was going to Alexander, but then I showed up, Central, because I couldn't go to Alexander anymore. And this is the very first summer practice. And I was like the last person, and I showed up, I showed up late. So we went to Alexander first, and then we went to Central right after they told us what was going on. And then, I was like, holy cow. And then we got there and everything was so stressed, or I was so stressed because I was just like, I don't know what's going on. And I remember just getting there and the coach was like, who are you? And I was like, I'm Charlie. And I was like, there was so much going on and everybody was practicing. It was in the middle of practice. And at the end of practice, I just had to stand on side and watch the whole practice. And then at the end of practice, they fitted me from a pads and helmet. And I was like, getting the 3XL size pants and the helmet was like a bucket that barely fit me. And the shoulder pads were 4 sizes too big. It was just, the whole thing was a mess. I was just like, I don't play football. I'm done. Yeah. And then, I can't even remember how it all worked out, but it ended up working out. And I started getting to go to.
I think that may have been one practice only.
Yeah, it was one practice. I went one practice and then I never stepped back.
Then I heard back from the county and they finally get all clear. And then went to Alexander and
never walked back in there.
And that coach
they went 0-10 that year.
He was not
he didn't have Miko Harmon. Miko Harmon plays for, Kansas City Chiefs.
I don't want to say anything bad. It just wasn't great experience for us. And so, but it didn't matter. We went to Alexander. He played. It was a good time. Yeah. Like 9th grade and then his sophomore year got a lot of playing time. Started half the season. Kid in front of him got a little trouble. He was a really good football player in front of him.
Yeah.
Really good ball player.
Gosh, I remember that.
Yeah.
I was in like 6th grade or 6th period and the day ends and an hour, and then we go eat pregame, and the coach like pulls me out of class and like, he's like, hey, just want to let you know, your Caden, or sorry, Dad, no, I'm gonna cut that up.
You don't, don't matter. Don't say the rest of it.
You know, so and so can't play tonight. You know, you're gonna have to get ready to play. So, then I was 15 years old and I was playing against 18-year-old grown men. I was like, oh my gosh. And this was 6A Georgia high school football. Like, we're going to play 1A.
You know, I got a picture of the guy he's tackling. Is like one of his first tackles is went to Auburn. So like, yeah,
So it was ridiculous. Like, but I had fun, and they ended up being like great, like confidence booster for me. I was like, I don't know, I guess I can do it a little bit. And
yeah, it worked out.
But that was just a fun moment. But
all right, so get here, you meet all those guys, Joey Tutors and Brewer, Camp, and all the guys here in the church. Like, what is when did it start feeling like this is my home for you? Was it senior year or after, or like when was it?
I think honestly my senior year of high school, because everything just kind of started clicking, and like I had some really good friends. The church was really, really good to me, and like now I had built these relationships that it was like when I got there, it was like it was just like nobody was really would hang out. I'm just like, I gotta hang out with somebody. I mean, I can't talk to myself. I don't have any thoughts going on. So, I was just bewildered by it. And so then I was, then everything just started kind of, even, with football, like my career in football started going really, really well for me. And, and then, school was, it was good. I mean, school still, I didn't really care, but it was still good. And, it just all started. And I got to see, it was really cool because I got to see like Addie and Jesse and Shelby, and they all like had really close friends too. And I was just like, all right, this is, we always have people at the house, and this is like, all right, this is more like home, because we back home, we've always had people over. That's is what it is. So that's probably what it started.
All right. Well, good. Well, so any funny stories or memories that you want to bring up before we ask any serious questions? Don't take too long. People don't want to.
No, I know. I'm trying. There's like so many that I could think of, and I don't even know. Well, okay, I can tell.
Now, remember, keep some people anonymous if you need to.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying. I can tell. It is all right. I'll tell a funny story, and then I'll tell like the most impactful stories, or not impactful, but just like crazy story. I'll be real quick. But a funny story was. All right. Jonathan Gauss, he's my boy. Like, I love Jonathan. He's the best human being on the planet. Ask anybody, and they'll tell you the same thing. And if they don't, then they can come see me. But we all went to his parents were out of town. So me and Jonathan were staying together, and we were hanging out. We had all the buddies. We got together and like, let's go get dinner.
Some people might not know John. You want to give a quick?
So I'll give a quick. Jonathan Gouch, he's a member of our church. He's probably one of my best friends on the planet. He has Down syndrome, and he is just hilarious. He's like literally the funniest, most joyful guy you ever know. All right, that's kind of a backstory talking about. But so we all are eating dinner with Jonathan, right? So we take him, and we're in Mooresville. I remember this. We're in Mooresville, and we're eating at Lancaster's Barbecue, which is like, this is NASCAR country. So they have a bus inside of the restaurant. It's just, it's a funny restaurant. And so Jonathan's been telling us, like, we got to go to this restaurant. And so we get in there. And, like, we have been here maybe all of 2 minutes. We got 5 guys with us going to the tables. She's leading us to our table. And, there's not much room in this one little section. And so, there's these people, there's probably like 10 people at this table. They're sitting down, just relaxing, eating, about to get their food. And then, just a really tiny walkway. And the waiter, she's there holding her drinks. And she's sitting there and she's trying to pass out the drinks. And so I walk by, and Corey walks by, and a couple other guys walk by, and then I turn around and I'm like, all right, Jonathan, come on, we're sitting over here. And he's walking by, and he accidentally bumps into the chick that's holding the tray of drinks and just knocks it all over. And then just the best part is he never batted an eye. He just kept walking. And I like to sometimes embarrass Jonathan, like just to be funny. And so I was like, Jonathan, what are you? He's like, shh, no, what are you talking about? I didn't do that. Like, just stop. Just stop talking. And then we go sit down. And then like nothing happened. And I was just like, oh my gosh, that just happened. But that was, all right, sorry. That was,
should have bought their meal.
oh no, it was like, literally, I was like trying to talk. The best part was I was trying to talk to him. Like, I'm so sorry. Like, Jonathan just grabs me. He's like, come on, we're good. Come on. I was like,
That's such a Jonathan thing to do.
oh, it was great.
He was so embarrassed. I thought you were going to tell the story of him. The van.
Oh gosh.
This is the best.
You have to tell. You have to tell that one.
All right, I have to tell this story now. I completely forgot about it. But
Oh gosh.
so I just laughed thinking about it. But we were doing, I forgot what we were doing. Like
We were
Charlotte
canvassing.
weekend?
We were canvassing
canvassing.
for VBS.
For VBS. It was one of our like
Operation
Charlotte projects. And Jonathan,
No, it wasn't.
Was it not?
It was after. No, it was when I was an intern. It was after an intensity.
Oh,
we were like,
oh,
we-
that's right. That's
We
right.
have to do what main campus does, and so we have to canvas. So there were like 12 of us that went and
Okay.
canvassed.
well, that's what we were doing. I didn't even remotely. I just remember this part of the story. But we we just ate. We just got done eating, right? And we ate PDQ. Everybody knows what PDQ is at. I mean, probably not if you're watching, but if you know,
Just
I'm just trying to, lay that story.
you don't have to give all the details.
But all right, so we got done, and I'm sitting in shotgun seat, and this, we were riding on like a 15-passenger van that Jonathan's family used to own, and so I'm sitting in the shotgun seat, and I'm already in the car. Jonathan, he was in the, he was throwing away his trash and using the restroom before he left. So we're all ready to go. We're all loaded up, and I look, and I see Jonathan, come out the door, and he just sits there, and we're probably like 100 feet,
Not even.
maybe not even 100 feet from the door. And we're just sitting there, and me and Blake, Pastor Blake, one of our pastors, we're just talking, and we're about to go to the church. And, I look at Jonathan, he kind of like looks around, he looks both ways, and then he just starts getting in a dead sprint, like full on sprint. And I just watch him, I'm just laughing because Jonathan in a full on sprint, like it's just funny. And he's not slowing down. And I'm like, surely he's going to stop. And let's just say he did not stop running. And he kept running full head of steam and literally runs right into the front quarter panel, that right little front section, and puts a massive dent in this.
It was huge.
It was
It's
a
huge.
massive.
Unbelievable.
The whole van just like, boom. And I'm just like,
But Johnny's not a small kid.
no.
He's a big boy.
Yeah. And,
John
John
is full force behind him.
John, like full force, like if that man was a wide receiver and he was linebacker, Jonathan on that battle. Let's just say that. And but then the best part was he gets up, he fell on the ground, sorry, through the word, that was free framer. Fell on the ground, and then he gets up and he's laughing, giggling, and he gets in the band and he's just laughing, and it's one of those big like sliding doors, right? The big, heavy, massive, like 15-passenger, boom, and he gets in and he goes to shut the door, and I'm talking about this guy. He slammed this door so hard shut, like so hard shut. And like, when you hear that door shut, you hear like this loud boom and the whole thing shakes. But for some reason this time, I didn't hear that noise. I didn't hear anything shut. And so I just see this door slam shut, and then it stops about right here abruptly. And then there was a delay. And Jonathan starts to realize that his foot is in between the door. And he started screaming his head off, bawling his eyes out. And I think it might have been the funniest moment of my life. That's the funniest moment. 100%.
Okay.
But
100%.
So I've seen it across the parking lot.
He always cried. I felt terrible.
Oh, he did. I was sitting across the parking lot because not everyone could fit in the van, so I had some kids in my car. And we just see the van shake, and then we hear Jonathan start screaming, so we're like, we don't know what's happening. We pull out, we get back, and Harvey's like, yeah, we think Jonathan might have like broke his toe or something.
I think I don't know how he didn't shatter his foot. Like he's just, oh, it's so bad.
I just keep reliving the moment.
Well, like if you were in the car, like you just see this little sliver. I'm like, something's not right. And Jonathan quickly realized that his foot was not the best.
The funniest part is that
It was a delayed reaction.
he is so delayed, and he looks down and then, oh,
Oh, it was awful.
oh gosh! All right, I better stop laughing.
Sorry,
Sorry, Jonathan.
Jonathan,
We
you're
love
watching
you.
this. I love you.
Oh, more affectionately known as Cashman.
Cashman, yep.
Jay Money.
Oh goodness,
I'm the +1 for the wedding.
I know. Yeah, his sister's getting married
Sunday.
this Sunday, and Charlie is Jonathan's +1. So, and Jonathan's outfit,
The big roller field.
it's fantastic.
He rolled up in church
Yeah,
with
did.
it the other day.
he did. He did.
Pastor Flynn appreciated it.
His mother didn't know.
She did. Well, that's the thing. He packed stuff that she never. Like the best thing about Jonathan was the story that Addie. Addie was in class with him at Hickory Grove, and she's like, one day she goes to the restroom, comes back, and she notices there's a little kitchen near the little classroom that they were in, and she sees Jonathan in there, and he's doing something. So she peeks around the corner, and he's making a guacamole. So he's got an avocado, and he's got a knife to cut avocado. He brought this knife from home. I'm talking about he brought the, if you've got a knife block, he brought the big one. He brought a knife that big. It's like Crocodile Dundee would be impressed with this knife. That's how big it was. And so she comes back in the classroom. She said, hey, Jonathan brought a knife. She didn't think anything about it, but the teachers went crazy. Like, oh, Jonathan. So they had to take the knife up. And he's like, what? Like he was confused as to why he couldn't have a knife to make his guacamole. So anyway, Jonathan's an interesting kid. We love Jonathan. All right, Charlie, let's try to move away from some of the funny stuff and tell us something maybe impactful here. You think the girl was something that was meaningful to you. I hate to go. It could grow or being whatever. Since you moved to North Carolina, whatever it was. It doesn't have to be necessarily progressive.
I don't know. I mean, I think there's so many different like impactful things that have happened since I've been here. Seeing Jesse get baptized was, great. And, just seeing, I think probably recently, something that's been super impactful is just the good relationships of the church and how, people don't understand. I feel like, I said this one time, I had to like say something for the football team or something like that, but I kind of, was just saying like, the reason why so many people struggle when they get out of like a sport or like football is because once they leave that locker room and that brotherhood, you can't get that anywhere else, except church. That's the only other place you can get it. And I think something that's been super impactful for me is just like, when you struggle with something in your life and you go through something that's hard, like you always have your buddies and your brothers in Christ, and they're there for you. And they're the first ones there. Just that's been so encouraging to me and impactful to me. And it's like, man, like this is the purpose of the church. This is why we love the church. It's why we serve the church, for this reason. And that's something that's been super effective from a Hickory thing.
That's good. Even as simple as the softball team you guys play.
Yeah. Like we have so big softball. I mean, like I played softball and baseball when I was what, 6th grade, 5th grade? Something like that. Yeah. If you get pop fly, and I missed it most of my day. I was like, oh, Got it.
No, that wasn't it.
Oh, I don't remember.
It was, I threw the ball and you were hitting. You got hit with the ball.
Oh, yeah.
And you were like, no, I'm not doing that. You said,
But then I decided to let, 300-pound men run.
yeah, but you could fight back. I think that was the,
Yeah, that's true. I had an option. But yeah, like, I mean, it's funny because, we had two kids or two guys that are my age that like, were in the church, but they weren't like super involved. And then we had this softball team that gets them. Like now we're all like best friends and like we talk to each other every day. And it's just like, and we still play year round. So it used to be just a summer thing. And now we're like playing in Franklin and playing in other leagues. And it's just a year round thing now. And we do it every Tuesday night, have a little Bible study. And it's a great time. It's good fellowship. It doesn't have to be always like this little Bible study or, whatever. Not that there's a problem with that, but it's just cool.
yeah. But your friendship is centered around 100% relationship with Christ. And that's,
Yeah. Like if I, strike out and get mad and, one of the guys is like, come on, what are you doing? And it puts you in check, It's accountability, built in. I think that's something I've realized more. It's like the more godly guys you hang out with or, just people you hang out with in general, it's like, it's good for you.
yes.
It's very helpful,
So, I think like, I've said this before on the podcast, like the locker room is what people miss when they stop playing the sport. They do miss the sport. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But it's the relationships that they miss the most.
Yeah.
Any athlete stops playing sports, what they miss the sport. But what they miss most is that locker room feel because they built those relationships through the grind. But in a church setting, that continues and it's deeper and it's better. And it's like you can build relationships that are, sometimes deeper than blood relationships you have with your own family. You've got relationships that last 50 years and you met in nursery, watching children or something, and met at a youth event. And you've had that relationship for that long. It's people that care and love you in a way that is deeper than just surface level love, but love in Christ. So
yeah,
I think that's really neat. And I think it's why it's important to be involved in a local church and be committed even through difficulty.
Yeah.
Be committed. So
I agree.
all right. So let's ask you this question. What are you, now that everything's over and you graduate from all that stuff?
Yeah.
And you're out no longer in sports in college. What are you passionate about? What do you want to do now?
Yeah. Currently, I mean, I think there's so many things that I am, I guess, passionate about. But I know one of those things is probably the main thing is just people. I love people. So just all the things that mean to you. I'm currently working right now. I think I've always had like this big dream, like to open up a camp one day. I've just always just being around youth camp all the time. I've had it like in perfect scenario, perfect world. If I can have like in the fall like a flooded field of corn to shoot ducks in, bring people in, and then in the summer have a football field over here and just have football camp. In the summer and teach kids how to play football and, just center it all on Christ. Have pastors come in and, preach and men's conferences and all these things. And like, I think that it's funny because like I just had so many impactful people in my life that made me into the man I am today. And, pastors and coaches, and those are the people I, love, always been around. Want to impact and, also want to impact, young men as well.
You get a little bit of that taste with Jesse.
Yeah. Like, I coached Jesse this year and it was really good. And that was super cool to just be able to, I coached my brother in high school, that's pretty cool, and so I enjoyed that. And just even the other kids too, like kids I didn't have any intention of really like it wasn't the reason, the reason I coached because I want to coach Jesse, but then these other kids came in and I was like, man, I love these kids too.
And I don't think I've ever told you this, but kids come up to me to this day because they know we're friends. Like, man, Coach Blazi, like, Coach Charlie was like probably one of my favorite people. And like, they still talk about you to this day because they loved you so much and you made such a big impact on them.
Yeah. Well,
Oh, that goes now.
yeah, I reckon. But no, I could definitely see myself coaching too. And, you know, at some capacity, you know, just,
It doesn't have to be your whole life.
no, you know, I don't, you know, necessarily know. Yeah, who knows? You know, who knows what the Lord's going to do? Yeah.
That's the thing. I mean, you know, people want to plan their lives. You know, this is, you know, the famous John Piper. You don't plan your life. God plans your life.
I still remember that sermon.
You walk the path He's chosen for you, and you do that, and you center it around Christ. You got to find your identity in Christ, not in what you do, but in who you are, whose you are, more importantly.
Mm-hmm.
And then those things that surround that God has gifted you, you use those gifts in this world, this broken world, and you do it in a way so that you can point broken people in a broken world to a whole Savior in Christ, and you can make us whole. So that's what we do. Yeah, and that's whatever you end up doing, you're talented in a lot of ways. Whatever you end up doing, that's the main goal. Now what?
Yeah.
Whether it's Carolina Cat or whatever.
Yep.
All right. Well, your last word?
Not really. I know I said a lot and probably was all over the place, but maybe I'll listen to this episode.
Be the only one to listen to. Be the longest one.
It's probably terrible just listening to yourself.
It is terrible.
Yeah. So I may not watch it.
All right. That's all I got. We're done.
It's a pleasure.